Hello everybody, welcome back to Summer Book Buzz. So this week I'm going to be highlighting some prequels and sequels to some of your favorite books. So first up we have You Love Me by Carolyn Kepnes. This is the third installment of the You series. So here we see Joe's story continue when he moves to the outskirts of Seattle and ends up getting a volunteer job at a public library. So here he meets Mary Kay, and Mary Kay is a librarian and a mom who's a little older than the previous two women Joe has pursued in the series. So she's definitely a bit more difficult to get through to, but Joe is determined to make it work. So as with the previous two books in this series, this is a romantic thriller. Definitely a page turner, will keep you on edge throughout, and it'll somehow make you root for Joe throughout the story, even though you really don't want to. He's really not the kind of character that you want to root for. He's very, very deeply flawed, very evil in a lot of ways, but you know, you still end up rooting for him somehow. All right, so next up we have Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This story has us following or rejoining Wade and the rest of the High Five a few years after the events of Ready Player 1. So this time the High Five teams up to solve a new riddle, which is finding the 7 shards to restore the Siren Soul. So without giving too much away, much like the first book, you can expect a lot of action, adventure, and 80s references. So next up we have The Wonder Boy of Whistle Stop by Fanny Flagg. This story is the follow-up to Fried Green Tomatoes, and in this story we return to Whistle Stop, which is obviously the town where Fried Green Tomatoes took place. So this story follows Bud, who is son of Ruth, who is one of the main characters in Fried Green Tomatoes. So Bud is now all grown up. He has a adult daughter of his own, actually. So Bud decides to take a trip with his daughter to Whistle Stop, but over the years it has really kind of cleared out and become a ghost town. But we end up meeting new characters throughout the story. We reconnect with some old characters, and along the way we and Bud discover some previously unknown history about the town of Whistle Stop and the people who have called it home over the years. So next up we have Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz. So this story follows the same format as Horowitz's previous story, Magpie Murders, with the whole murder mystery within a murder mystery thing going on. So our main character in this story is Susan. She is a book editor. So throughout the story, Susan is actually trying to solve the case of this woman who has mysteriously disappeared, and she's done so after reading one of the books by that was written by one of Susan's former authors, Alan Conway. So Conway's book was actually based on a actual murder that had taken place years before, and this woman who was mysteriously disappeared, whose name is Cecily, she was thought to have discovered the true killer through reading this story. So what's really cool about the format of this story is that we get 2 books in one here. We get the entirety of this fictional murder mystery novel by Alan Conway, the fictional author, in the middle of this story. So by getting to kind of read this fictional like vintage murder mystery novel within the middle of this book, we kind of get to put ourselves in the character's shoes of figuring out, you know, who the like real killer was in real life. And finally, we have Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. Now this book is actually a prequel to Hoffman's other books, Practical Magic and the Rules of Magic. So the really cool thing about it is you don't necessarily have to have read those 2 books in order to read this one, because the events take place beforehand. So in this story, we go back to the 1600s and discover the origins of the Owens family bloodline. So we meet Maria here, who is abandoned as a baby and then discovered and adopted by Hannah Owens. So as she raises Maria, Hannah teaches her all she knows about the unnamed arts. So this story follows the course of Maria's life and journey, which eventually takes her to Salem during the time of the famous witch trials. And we also, through the story, discover the origins of the Owens family curse, which plays a big part in both practical magic and the rules of magic. All right, guys, that does it again for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye.